Howdy y'all. On the last episode, we managed to get all this together and put in here, and we were working on the gear lash. So today we're going to continue working on that and see if we can get this straightened out. We were a little concerned that we didn't get enough preload on the bearings, but I think we're okay. So let's see where we're at. We've just been discussing, and right now we have short toe contact. So what were you saying?
Right here is what we have right now according to our marking we have. We need to get some different Prussian blue or something to check it better.
We're using a paint pen here because the blue stuff that we were using before, you couldn't see it very well, and it dried a little too fast. We made a mess.
You did.
Yeah, I guess.
I didn't. What happened? We froze up. Okay, roll her back.
That actually doesn't look terrible.
It's a lot on the toe. You can see it. How about on your side? What do you see over there? Same thing?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a little more in the center. But you know what they were saying with the deflection? It might equal out a little bit.
Under load?
Yeah.
I think we need to move this that way.
Yep.
But in the book it says move it away.
Well, no, they're right. We need to do what the book says. The book says to move it away and then move this pinion this way, but
we never moved the pinion.
We've never moved the pinion. And I don't know that we want to. We don't have the shims, and I don't have the things to do that.
We ought to put your dial indicator on and check our lash again.
I'll grab it.
All right, go. Yeah.
I don't know why it's moving. It's spinning that around.
Yeah, I don't know why either.
We need to move this
back.
That way. Then.
This way.
Okay. What are we doing here?
We don't want it too tight.
No. That's what I'm kind of wondering if we got too tight. That's why there's so much resistance when we go to try to spin it.
Does it turn?
Is it harder? Seems like it.
Oh.
Yeah, the bearings are fine. They're preloaded.
We should be able to turn it.
Not if they're tight.
Something binds up on us.
Well, it's those bull gears. We were a little worried about our bearing preloads, so we loaded them again, and it got really hard and hard to turn. It actually has a spot when we go all the way around where it gets hard still. And we haven't backed off. You could pretty much move it by hand.
But this one now, see, it shows good full contact on these here.
We were a little concerned that these bull gears were kind of hanging us up because they're not really seated back in the race where the bearing needs to ride, and that won't happen until we get the sprockets pressed on there. But really, theoretically, if we're doing everything correct up here, that shouldn't affect us.
Just ever so gently rock that pinion. What do you got there?
I'm going to tighten those caps down and see if that changes anything. We had them kind of loose so that could slide back and forth in there while we were kind of adjusting and setting the preload on the bearings.
Look what that did.
Yeah, it did change things. Okay. I'm going to laugh. What is it?
Well, that's showing 22 thousandths. We reading that right? Yeah.
So we went way too much. You know, we had it closer than this before. We should have left it alone. Did you? And you loosened all these bolts.
I loosened them.
Okay.
Oh, look at there. We got about 10.
That would be livable. All right, let me pull up my gauge, and we'll turn this, and we'll check it on a different place on that pinion.
Yeah.
it feels like it's tight. I don't know what's going on here.
What do you got?
It ain't.
You don't have hardly anything.
I don't have anything.
All right, take it off. Let's roll it to another gear and see what happens.
This sign's hanging up here for a very good reason, because right now we're super frustrated. Not that anything's flown, but, you know, just in case. So we kind of turned our attention to something else to try and think it through. Dad got this cut off and squared up. This is for the main clutch. This is the original. You can see how completely egged out it was. All right, and what are you cutting here?
This will be the master clutch shaft.
Now what are you doing?
I'm going to true this center up. It's just quicker this way.
Yep.
And
looks
this
just as good.
An old file that we don't care about. We're within a few thousandths. I'm going to leave that little bit a few thousandths longer. Won't hurt a thing. This is maybe only 40 thousandths longer than the original pin, which won't hurt a thing in that application. So
all we got to do is cut some keyways in it. We got to turn this inner bushing down about 70 thousandths. That brass ought to cut pretty easy.
Yeah, I got to go 25 thousandths more.
Got it done?
I think so.
Yeah. Let's see how it fits.
Is it snug?
It's very snug. I think it'll drive in.
Well, it's very close, within a few thousandths of the old one.
Yeah, we want it to be snug. We don't want it to spin around in there.
Well,
So there's two of them. There's one here, and then there's one that fits here. And there's a little bit of a gap between the two of them.
A little grease groove in it.
Yeah. Well, you could probably tell earlier that we got a little bit of a problem here. Something's bent, something's off. I've done a little bit of research. I've gotten on the forum, and I've talked to General Gear, and I'm going to put this gauge on here and check and see if this bevel gear has anything kind of bent in it. It's possible that that bearing on the pinion has some rust on it. We did notice that there is rust in there. I think we're going to replace that. I got another one coming. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to take all this stuff out that I just put in at the front of the transmission so we could pull this out. I got cheap. I should have replaced it while I was in there, but not a huge deal in itself. I can get another pinion if I have to. I'd prefer not to, but when we checked it 4 different places like they tell you to do in the book, nothing was ever consistent, and you could probably tell. We kept checking it, but I have not checked this bevel gear, this ring gear. So I'm going to put my gauge on it today and see if there's anything, I don't know, out of spec. See if that gauge moves in and out. Maybe this is broke. Hopefully not this axle's broke. I really don't want to pull all of this back out of here. We've worked so hard to put this in here. It's kind of bugging us. And that's why I'm out here with Z right now on a Sunday trying to figure this out. So let's get the gauge on here and just see how bad it is and see where we got to go. What do you think, Z? Are we going to fix this thing? What do you think? I'm kind of having my doubts at the moment. I'm not very happy. I really hope nothing's bent in here, but I got a really bad feeling about this. So I've got my gauge set up here. I've got it zeroed. Here's a moment of truth. Let's see if I got anything bent. Ooh, that's not good. It's moving a little bit. 5, 6, 7. Ooh, now we're going 10 the other way. 20, 30. Now we're going back. This is not good news. Now we're going back to 0. So I'm wondering if the pinion's not broke or bent. It might be this bevel gear. And if it's this bevel gear, we got a lot of work back ahead of us to fix it, because we have to pull all of this out of here again. Not the news I wanted to hear today. But At least we might know where we're going with this. I don't know how I could adjust this. Perhaps maybe this is not straight in here. Maybe that axle's bent in the middle. I don't really know. Honestly, I don't know where to go from here. Z, can you fix it? We're definitely going to finish this project. We have to. And I'm committed. But this is a huge hurdle that we're going to have to try and figure out. And I got some thinking to do, so I'm going to leave this episode. Wait. Don't go. I think there's something we need to try in here. We're going to take those drums loose on each side of those and see if we can get that centered and adjust it then. That might be what's throwing us off, is we hooked up the drums, tightened everything up, and they may be holding it out of alignment. We've got 2 dial indicators set up on this, and we've released all these bolts, so let's see if anything's changed. Let me see if I can turn it from the transmission.
I'll just turn it right here.
If you can.
Yeah.
Definitely turns easier now. That gauge ain't hardly moving.
Neither's this one. There. I got a little movement right there.
I got like 1/10, baby.
I got 0.
I got virtually nothing. That's what was holding us. So here's the second question. I did order a new bearing for this pinion. Do we want to pull this out and put it in?
Where's my mark coming?
I know that laugh.
Here's my mark.
Yeah, mine's hardly moving. This is a lesson. Like, don't hook up your drums until you get the lash set. I think we're going to be okay. And it's spinning nice and free now. I think that this was binding us.
And right now, we're lined up on this old one. If you can look down right there, it's almost exactly where it was before on the old witness mark, and how deep the tooth went in. So we're really very close on that.
And now I'm not afraid. We can set our
gear lash. It's right there where it was.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's there.
So that drum was what was holding us up. We took all these bolts out, and you could see that the drum was actually lower where it was turned than this flange here. And when we rolled this around, the drum got higher than the flange. So I was actually able to take my big dead blow hammer and just tap this drum, and it kind of lined up those clutch packs. So that's what our problem was the whole time. Here we were thinking we had bent pinions and bent bevel gears.
We should not have hooked these up before we got our gear lash
We learned a big lesson, didn't we? So for anybody doing clutches on a D4, do not bolt the drums on until you get your lash set.
And your gear engagement. All right, let's see what happens. Oh yeah, I got 5 thousandths. Exactly. 5 thousandths right there.
Okay.
It's a little tight. All right, roll it to another place. 6 thousandths.
Okay. Let's go a couple more gears.
Yeah. About 8 there.
So we're a little tight.
7 to 9.
They say to check it in several places. We've checked it 5 or 6 places, and we're between 4 and 9, and they say to take the lowest, correct?
Yeah.
So we should be like 4 or 5.
I mean, if you average that, we're right at about 6.
Yeah, and so that means that we need to loosen this a little bit. It's a little tight. But we're not getting the extreme spreads like we were before when this was binding. And we've been terrified, and I bet neither one of us have slept very well.
I've thought about it. Yes.
We just tightened this one 2 teeth and loosened this one about the same. So we're going to see if that gave us the adjustment that we're looking for. So that's not terrible.
17.
I think what we need to do is loosen this 1 tooth.
Tighten it just a hair back.
No, I need to loosen it because we tightened it to get
right.
there. So
right. We need to go back. Let me move this.
I'll loosen it 1 tooth.
And I'm at 14.
Okay. We just checked everything, and 10 or 15 times, and we are well within our specs. So I'm going to go ahead and torque these down. We're going to check it again and see where we're at. I'm going to start at 150. Well, we ought to be able to see that stuff.
See what it does. Oh, you can see.
It's about halfway up.
Yeah.
That's about perfect.
Yeah.
Once this gets under load, it'll spread it out further.
And look on the pinion gear.
Yeah. About halfway up.
A good 50%.
I think we're good. I don't think we want to mess with that.
I don't either. I think leave it alone.
We're just folding over the lock. What do you call those? The bolt locks? I don't know.
Yeah, they're just locks.
The fold over locks. We're folding those over, and we've got everything in adjustment where we're comfortable, where we're happy. We must have checked this thing 1,000 times, but we're tired of it, and we're ready to put the cover on here. I squirted a little pre-lube in that bearing. It's good to go. And before we were able to be comfortable with what we've got here and button this up, we called Antique Crawler Parts up in Laramie, Wyoming, and just kind of confirmed what we're doing. And I'm glad we did, because we preloaded the bearings again just to make sure, and now we're within the reasonable specs. So we're happy with it. It's time to cover it up. It's time to move on. This is taking way, way, way too much time. Agreed?
Yes.
Now we're going to put this side together. So this is the front that hooks to the pedal right there. And this is the back that hooks to the middle of the brake band right there. And there's a pin that goes through here. And this is the big main pin right here that runs the whole brake band. And this is the adjustment screw that will come up right through there. And we can adjust it with that. So the first part, and what is kind of the hardest part, is to get this thing in here. And I was able to wiggle it through here. That side's a little more difficult because you have that gear down in there in the way, and that kind of pops out in the casting, which makes it really hard, and you have a lot less room. But we got that side done. It's adjusted. So now we got to get this side together. Oh, this side's much easier than that other side. Oh, yeah. That other side was a nightmare.
Well, we started with the hard side.
The nice thing is, when you got the front of this off, you can reach through and manage stuff like that. All right. And this is the first pin that's got to go through. This is the one that connects the bottom of the brake band into the mechanism. Now I got the pin started in this side of the band, and that has to come in from the transmission side. And there's that washer I was talking about. And there's the casting right there that kind of holds it up. So you got to make sure you get that washer in there first. And because you can't press that washer past that casting. At least on the other side I had that issue. It also helps to put the cotter key in the pin first, because it is a nightmare struggle to get a cotter key in there and get it bent over correctly. And I struggled with that on the other side, so I learned my lesson here. Now I'm going to need two hands to get this through. Now I'm going to bring this up and push my pin all the way through the mechanism. I'm going to start this bolt in here through the adjuster. That's installed, and the next is this lock that goes into the key of that pin, and the bolt goes through here to hold it. There's a hole drilled out that's threaded here. If you have difficulty taking this pin out, you can stick a bolt in there and slide hammer it out. I got that all put together like it's supposed to be. Now I just need to bend that cotter key over, and I'm going to cut it off a little. Those are too long. I got that all together in there. Got the cotter key I need to bend over. Everything's back together. Got everything even snugged up. So now we're going to put the brake pedal on. Once that pedal's on, it'll hold me and I can turn that cotter key and bend it the way it needs to go. We just got the pedal on here. It just tapped on with a dead blow hammer, and we like to get it so that this is flush with the edge of that inside of the taper on that pin that comes through here. Dad's putting in the pinch bolt. I know we got some paint touch-ups to do. There's a few shy places with some paint, and we know that. We knew that was a possibility and a probability, but we're going to get it. And there's some places that, yeah, bib overalls. Everything I lean up against, I leave a scratch. So we'll have to touch a lot of this up. We know it. So the next thing to do, put the spring on. Real quick, before I go up front and do that, I'm going to go ahead and bend that cotter key over now that I can hold everything with this brake pedal. And the final step in this process is going to be to install the spring on the pedal. And to do that, I found it easiest just to take the bolt hanger out. That screws in right there. And I can put a new lock washer in it in the process. One side hooks to that right there. The other side hooks back there on the pedal. And I just hang this. There's two parts of the hook. I think they're exactly the same. One's just kind of bent. And I just hang this spring in here. Find it easier to hang this on here. Hook that on that. And then just kind of pull this through here. And I'll have to have Dad help me with another hand. Helps to depress the brake pedal a little bit to give you a little slack in the spring. Dad's got it on. Now I just tighten it up and we're good to go. And then there's a cover plate that goes on each one of those. If the brakes are done, let's show how we adjusted them. Dad has the adjuster screw for the bottom over here. This is an original one that I think is going to work fine. The other one was rusted too bad. And we've already replaced it and set that one right there. Kind of butted that up against the bottom of the brake band there. And the directions in the cat book say to back it off a turn and a quarter.
So there's a half, there's a full turn and a quarter.
Yep.
Right there.
All right, that's where it should be. So we'll tighten our lock nut up and that should be good. There we go. And 9/16, I use a 6-point. These are kind of marred from years and years of adjustment. It's important to remember when you finish.
How's that?
That this needs to be right there so that it's square, so that it locks in that spring lock that's inside there. That looks pretty good.
It's similar to this one. We'll adjust them after we get the top on, and they'll need to be run and worn in.
They need to wear in. I noticed that both of these bands are kind of rubbing on the front sections, but they're both working properly. The book says we're supposed to have about 3 to 4 inches of free play in the pedal.
Got about 4.
It's not really wanting to return good.
Well, the stops are the top of the case.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what you need to, but for now that's close enough.
We're just getting them close till we get the top of the cover on here.
Bolt in the bottom is to keep these bands up so that your tension when you pull is mainly on here.
Right. It keeps the top of this band from resting down on the drum. It basically pushes this whole band up. It gives us this clearance in here, which is very minor. What is that, like 1/16 of an inch?
Yeah.
1/18? Yeah, just up here, it's kind of wearing. They'll wear in. They need to be ran. And what were you saying? Where's the pull?
Well, they pull from the front, so that this is wanting to clamp. It's fixed on the bottom. It's wanting to clamp this way. It pulls that way. If you pull the pedal, watch how it pulls it forward this way.
Yep.
After talking to Antique Crawler Parts and getting the lowdown on this, especially on a used gear set, you're not going to get perfect lash all the way around. We had about 5 to 6 thousandths variance as we spun our pinion, which on this old set's probably going to be okay. And we're on the long side of 10 to 16 thousandths on lash. So better loose than too tight.
Yeah, and I had a lot of assistance from General Gear too. I kind of talked to them about the issue, and I put out a question on the forum on ACMOC, the Antique Caterpillar Machinery Collectors Association. I probably butchered that acronym, but I had a lot of good responses there, and I do appreciate all those. So good resources, all three of those. And in the end, all it was an error on our part that we had went ahead and tightened these drums to these flanges before we tried to set the lash. And when those steering clutch packs go in here, I think that they were just slightly off center, and it was holding us up, which gave us the big variation. Clear out there on the end gives a big variation here in the middle because the gear train was sitting kind of like this. Once we got that figured out, loosened these up, everything was fine. Nothing's bent. We went ahead and ran with this bearing that's in here. We inspected it really well. It looks fine. I sprayed a little oil in there too. So, man, what a relief. I was really expecting to have to spend some money on parts that I didn't want to spend. I am not keeping track of my budget on this project, but it is over budget, to say the least. I do want to thank you for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. If any of you work at Kohl's, can you check and see if they have any D4 size fitted sheets?